Hello, welcome to NerdBird online tutorials. I'm just going to go through Visual Studio 2010 Express simply because this is what I'm going to use in order to do for the tutorials, and I think it will be best if I go through what I use so that when you're watching the tutorials it makes it easier for you to understand where everything is. So I'm going to create a new Windows Form application just for this tutorial. I'm going to call it not really going to be creating anything in this tutorial, rather it's just going to be a little, what's the word, I'll show you around what Visual Studio's firmware. So first of all, we're going to talk about the toolbar, and in the toolbar, the main things that you're going to be using, especially during my tutorials, is the button. So you can see that here. The group box, which is also in the common controls section, where it's not in the common controls section, rather it is in the containers. You need to remember that group box is used quite a bit when you're making, for example, a login application form. The calendar, which is in the common tools, it's called month calendar. You've also got the progress bar, which is in the common controls. You've got the timer. Actually, when you're using the progress bar, you must also use the timer, which is in the component section. This is called timer, and that wouldn't actually show when you drag it onto your form. It goes into, I'll show you, right down here, and it's still active, but you just can't see it, so just delete that. Next, another thing that you should remember is the dialogues box. When you're creating, for example, a notepad, you need to have the open file dialog and the save file dialog, and also you could have the color dialog for changing the text color. Also you could use the folder browser dialog, which is also like the open file dialog, but you use it at different times. Status menu, where is that? That's on the menus and toolbars. The status menu strip basically goes at the bottom of the form. I'll show you, and it just comes up here, and you can use a status label, progress bar, drop down button, or split button in this section, and as it shows here also, as well as you can edit it up here. Just delete that for now. Another thing you could use on there is the tool strip. Now the tool strip is actually quite complicated to use. I'll do a tutorial on that as well later on. But basically it's used for when you, for example, in Notepad, you would have a label or a split button, text box. It's just another status strip, but on the top. It's that simple. You could use this in Word to have maybe a cut and paste shortcut. Context menu strip is a great one to use. Another pretty complex one is basically that you can use this to do right click. So if you're creating your own operating system, recreating your operating system, then you can use that as a right click for background or options, extra options. Another really good one is your picture box that you need to remember. I use that quite a lot for different things. The picture box is very simple, and you just go here to choose your image. You can get it from your folders in your library on your computer, or you can use the project resource file, where I will explain how to use that one at a later stage. But just remembering local resources just as important and just as beneficial. When you get into the size mode, you can auto size it or stretch it or keep it as normal, the size that it comes as, and that's that. So that's really the toolbox, done. The next thing that you will be using a lot is the properties bar, and the properties bar is actually the most important one because this is where you can really edit things. To begin with, your form always ends up here when you first debug. Now, you want it to go into the center of the screen, preferably, simply because then it's in the main attention. And what you do is you go to start position and you would go to center screen, and that will allow it to, when you debug it and actually execute the form, it will start in the middle. And every time the user uses it after you publish the form, deploy the form, that's where it would open up. And that's pretty good to remember. Another thing is the form name. As you can see, the default is form 1, or when you open a new form, if it's the next one, it will be form 2, so on. This is where you would change it, so you would give it your new name and it will show up here. Also, when you're doing text, for example, if I went and got a label here, you would have to edit the text. So it would say text, and you could edit here. Let's say demo again. And here you would be able to say, okay, I want it to have this font style, this font style at this size, and press OK, and it will do it. Here is the forecolor, which means the color of the actual font. And you've got the system ones, which are very basic, very bland to be honest. You've got the web ones, which is a lot better. This is ones that I mainly use. And you've also got the custom ones. So that's good to remember. The custom ones are the basic colors that you get on your computer, like for example in Paint. However, web ones go a little bit deeper into having different shades of the same color. So that's good to remember, of course. But to do with the control, which is basically the control panel is behind that text now. As you can see, the main form color is this off grey kind of color, off white greyish kind of color. But if you go here and you want it to just be the same color as that background, whatever the background will be, you go here and you can either press transparent during the drop down list, or you can just write it. So that will now become transparent to whatever the background of the form is. It would show. And that's good to use when you're doing maybe a calendar or a calculator even, so that you don't have a big white box around your text or whatever color is on. The next thing for the form is your icon for your form, and that's very good because this shows when you execute the program or debug the program. So for example, if we just put this calendar one there, you would have to download a specific extension, which is ICO. That's the extension for an icon picture. So there's loads of sites that you can use. I'll put some in the link in the box below, showing all the links that I use for my tutorials. And that's that. When it comes to background, you just scroll up and you can see it says it here, background image, and that's for your form. Once you've selected your form, it will show the background image, and we can just import one that I've got from before. And you can either have the background just as normal or tiled, which at the moment it's on tile. We can center it, which doesn't make any difference, but you can also stretch it so that it feels however big you've made your actual form. You see? And here's the text. Remember where I said that the text then becomes transparent background, so it will just blend in with the background of the form. Lastly but not least, it's also in the textbooks you could have a username and password. When you type in here though, it would come up. I'm going to execute this just so that you can see. When you type in here, it would just have your normal text. But if that was a password, you wouldn't want to actually show the text you're writing in. And the way to actually change that is to press on the text box. Then you want to go to password characters. And there's another way of doing this, but this is the most simplest way. And you just type in the star. If you wanted to do O's, you can do O's, but obviously most people you just use a star. And if you save that and then you run it again, you would find that now when you type, stars come up. So it would still be the right password, but you only see stars, so nobody can see your password as you're writing. And that's for logins, forms, and things like that. Another good thing to remember is that you have a Solution Explorer. Now the Solution Explorer might not show straight away, and the way to find it is to go to View, and it says Solution Explorer. There's shortcuts, Control button with W and S. There's also one for the toolbox and for the properties, but as long as you remember that you can go to the View menu and pick it, that's fine. So Solution Explorer will have your current project that you're doing, and from here you can go to your properties, We'll do that in the next video, but this is just the basic one where you can add new items, which would be maybe if you wanted to add a new form or anything else really, new classes, controls, things like that. You would have the names of each form that you have. So as you can see, form 1 is here. If we click here, this is the actual view the code of your form, and as you can see, we don't have anything really added to this. It doesn't do anything. All you can do is write in that box. However, another way of getting to the form's code is double clicking the form, and if you want to make any adjustments to the code of an individual object on the form, you double click that exact object that you want to do. So double click it, and you see it says private void text box 1 text change, and that's where I can start doing coding. So I say if this text box is something, but we're not gonna really go into that yet. That's for another time. And the last thing that I want to say is to debug. Now, loads of people would say you can't actually run your application and see how it works until you debug it. And the way to do that is to press the debugging icon up here, which is start debugging, or you can use the shortcut, which is F5. So that's finally the last bit of the tutorial about how to use Visual Studio 2010. And I hope you enjoyed it and are going to enjoy my future videos on actually making programs.